Welcome back to the Spirit of Spaces podcast. I am your host, Shani, and I am so excited to be diving right in with you today on what feng shui really is. Some of you maybe have heard of the term feng shui. For some of you, it may be entirely new. And for others of you, you might feel a little bit more familiar with what feng shui really is. So, feng shui is a Chinese word, feng meaning wind and shui meaning water. So, it's wind, water. So, you can probably start to understand that feng shui is based on the elements. It's based on five elements: water, earth, fire, wood, and metal. And within feng shui, these elements actually either support each other or they weaken each other. And this is something that has been used by feng shui practitioners for thousands of years to determine the energy in people's homes and spaces. But let me just take you back a little bit in time. Before feng shui was called feng shui, it was actually called kan yu, meaning heaven, earth. So it's almost as if with feng shui, we are bridging the gap between heaven and earth. I like to think of it as bridging the gap between the unseen realms and the seen realms. So it's like we're bringing those energies, those unseen energies, and the elementals and all of the unseen forces and the spirits of your space. And we're connecting with those and moving with them and using them to manifest things into your reality in form on this earth. That gap between heaven and earth, as above, so below, as within, so without. And this is literally why I called my brand Roots and Rituals, because I truly believe that the more you can bring those unseen energies, those unseen forces into the light, into form, into matter, and root them down into your home and your space, the more that you start to feel rooted in your home and your space and the environment around you through ritual, through offerings, through sacred acts, through working with energies, the more radiant you can become, the more magnetic you can become, the more nourished you become, the calmer, more balanced and harmony you become within your own living temple, your body, your soul, your spirit, and your environment around you, the living temple of your home or your space, your retreat center, yoga studio, wherever it is that you are wanting to bring feng shui into to shift and improve the flow of chi, the flow of energy in that space. Now, feng shui, if I take you back in time, originally started in China somewhere between 4 to 6,000 years ago. And in ancient China, they understood that when you use energy in certain places, you can actually start to move that chi and start to bring prosperity into your life. So the words wind, water, feng shui were always associated in Chinese culture with good harvest, with health, with prosperity, and longevity. And good feng shui can bring you good livelihood, good fortune, prosperity, abundance, good health, vitality. But bad feng shui can also bring mishaps and hardships and misfortune and loss of money and breakdown of relationships and health. And so they understood that the use of connecting with these different energies, of understanding the lay of the land, understanding how to use different directions, the cardinal directions, north, south, east, west, northeast, southeast, southwest, northwest, and how to use these with the lay of the land to actually bring that flow of chi so that people could have a good harvest, health, prosperity, and longevity. Feng Shui is a lineage. It's an ancient lineage. It's wisdom. This is not a lineage to be messed around with. It's the same as any other lineage that you might have come across during your time, whether it's an indigenous lineage with medicine work, whether it's a lineage of your own ancestry, the Celtic lineage, the pagan lineage, the Druidic lineage, cultural lineages of the Amazon rainforest, and different tribes within different parts of the world. This is also a sacred ancient lineage. And so it's really important when we're learning about feng shui and understanding about feng shui that this is not just something that someone pulled out of their hat. It's not just a new age concept in any way whatsoever. In fact, it's the complete and utter opposite. Classical feng shui is thousands of years old, and this is a lineage that I am walking, that I am carrying, and that I am bringing to you in reverence, that I'm bringing to you in integrity, that I'm bringing to you with honor. And so good feng shui can feel like it's giving you a hug, right? Like we spend really on average 80% of our lives inside of our homes. 80% of our lives. That's a huge amount of time to be spending inside of your home. And your home is your sanctuary. I like to call it your living temple. And when your house or your home or your space is infused with the good feng shui, good energy, it feels like it's giving you a hug. It feels like you can come in, open the door, close that door, take off your shoes, and step across the threshold into your living temple, into your sanctuary. And from here, you can start to create connections with yourself, with your body, your surroundings, and people. It brings balance where life starts to flow with more ease, smoother, brings in more opportunity. It raises the vibration in your space by balancing energy. And it really is set up for your highest good, not just how you think your house should look, but how it should feel. Because when we're thinking about Kan Yu, heaven, the invisible, the unseen world, the elementals, the spirits, and we're bringing that down to earth in the physical world, the seen world, feng shui really is that bridge between the spiritual and the material realms. But this is why it's not just about moving some furniture about, and it's not just about interior design. In fact, you can work with interior design with feng shui and they work beautifully together, but it's really not about creating a space to look aesthetically pleasing as opposed to creating a space so that it feels luxurious, that it feels flowing, it feels financially prosperous and abundant and easeful and beautiful and sacred. Now, originally, the Chinese culture was using feng shui to actually site graves. Now, this sounds insane, perhaps to you, but if you think about it from an ancestral healing perspective, which I love because before I even came into feng shui, I was an ancestral healer. In fact, I still work with ancestral healing. This time I'm just working with your spaces and your homes as opposed to your lineage. I'm working with the lineage of your space and your homes. But in Chinese culture, they really revere their ancestors. And so with the graves, they started to understand that if they buried their loved ones, their ancestors, in certain positions based on the directions and based on the lay of the land, they would actually then channel that prosperity to the next generation. So it's kind of like they were doing their own ancestral generational wealth, lineage pass on through siting these graves. In 1988, in a Neolithic era, in the Hunan province of China, archaeologists actually uncovered evidence that ancient Chinese were practicing primitive feng shui over 6,000 years ago because they found dead bodies and their heads were rounded and pointed south, which is the heaven direction. And it's also the yang direction. Yang meaning more masculine, more action based, more fiery, more doing. But their feet were squared and facing north, which is more earth, yin energy. And in fact, this is why even now in feng shui, you may have seen that there are certain positions to put your bed in and certain positions not to put your bed in because they call it the coffin position. And if you are in the coffin position, you are dead, right? You've killed the energy. You've created this stagnant life force that doesn't bring the chi alive. And therefore, it's really important in feng shui that your bed is facing in the right position so that you're not in that coffin position. So you're not stopping the energy. Because again, that will stop the flow of life force, stop the flow of chi, and therefore the flow of prosperity and abundance. They also found an azure dragon constellation, which was made of shells. They found a white tiger constellation, also made of shells, and they found a representation of the star constellation of the Big Dipper, which helped to shape sites astrologically. So it's really incredible that when they discovered all these things, we can start to see that feng shui is a very, very ancient lineage. And you could argue that even before that, so many of the sacred sites that you maybe know around the world, Machu Picchu, you've got Avebury stones in England, in near Glastonbury, near Avalon and Avebury. There are the Great Wall of China, the Forbidden City, the Temple of Heaven. There are so many sacred sites around the world that were built based on cardinal directions, based on connections to the stars, based on connections to the Earth's landscape, based on connection to a water source, based on connection to magnetic fields, to ley lines, to compass directions. They would be able to create their own sound frequency with the shape of the stones that they built. So our ancestors truly understood how to work with spirits of the land, how to work with the energies of land, and how to honor and respect that land to build buildings that became extremely not only functional, but sacred. And this is something that we've forgotten along the way. Most of our homes are not infused with this sacred energy. Most of our homes aren't built with this in mind. Okay, there are architects for sure out there employing feng shui masters to help them build bigger complexes. There are many big businesses, in fact, out there that employ feng shui masters to come and create their office spaces and their buildings, because they understand that when you work with this flow of chi and when you're working with this kind of energy, you can then direct opportunities, financial prosperities, opportunities, abundance, productivity, better sales, good vitality and health for your workforce, your employees. And so there are loads of big companies out there actually employing feng shui because they understand that. And when feng shui was then actually used in China, it was only used by the dynasty, it was only used by the emperors. Why is this? Because they understood that they could then use that flow of energy to bring prosperity to the elite. And this is why I am so passionate about bringing this wisdom to the modern mystic, to the oracle, the priestess, the witch, the healer, the light worker. Those of you that are here in service to humanity, because you have magic to share with the world. You are connected to the unseen realms. You understand about the pure thread that goes between heaven and earth, between the unseen and the seen. But not always are you making prosperity or bringing in prosperity through your gifts. There's like a manifestation piece missing, and feng shui is part of that. Understanding how to work with the energies in your space, your home, and connecting to the spirits of the land are so important for that. And so in China, feng shui was used only to bring that prosperity and that flow of qi to the dynasty. And I used to actually live in Singapore for 5 years almost. I lived in Singapore and I wasn't really in this world. I wasn't in this realm. I didn't really know anything about spirit or spirituality or connecting to anything that was unseen. I was a teacher in a school at the time. I was very in the matrix. I had my 2 feet on the earth. But I do remember tapping into something in Singapore before I even really knew what feng shui was. I remember saying to a friend, and he still quotes me to this day, I said to him, I think that they are using feng shui in the city of Singapore because it's a tiny little city state. I think they're using feng shui to siphon the energy from the people and turn it into prosperity. It's one of the richest countries in the world, Singapore. It's like 1 in 8 people are millionaires there, potentially billionaires, but I think more millionaires. You know, there's a lot of finance, a lot of trade, a lot of high flying people working in Singapore. And I always felt like there was this lethargy or like a siphoning from the energy of the people. and it was bringing it into the prosperity of the state because the people weren't that happy, but the country was very, very wealthy. And so I remember saying that to a friend, and he still quotes me to this day. And this is before I even really knew what feng shui was. I don't even know why I said the words feng shui. I don't know if I'd even ever heard of it at that point. And even if I had, I certainly didn't know that it was a lineage. I didn't know that it was this ancient. I didn't know that it was this, filled with magic and spirit and connection to land. But of course, moving to Singapore was one of the first times I moved abroad. So already I was kind of doing grid work just by leaving my home country and moving to an entirely different part of the world, Southeast Asia. I'd never been there before. Of course, Asia is the birth of feng shui. And I've been to China twice. In fact, I've been to the Forbidden City. I haven't been to the Temple of Heaven. I'd love to, but I've been to the Forbidden City. I've been to Beijing. And I remember feeling the same when I was there too. I remember feeling like there was a weird energy in the space. And this is before I even knew about this world. I remember going into a temple in Sri Lanka and having an incredible experience. Like, I think it was the first time I'd ever experienced some kind of spiritual epiphany or awakening inside of a temple. And I remember coming out feeling like, whoa, what just happened? And again, this is before I understood this world. And so it was already starting to come into my orbit, into my field. And of course, I lived in Asia to kind of maybe even anchor that in. And I do remember when I lived in Singapore that the Chinese culture very much, as I said, reveres their ancestors, and they would have altars around the city where they would give offerings to their ancestors, oranges and incense and little red packets, fruits, candles. And this is what they call like to feed the ghosts, right? To feed the ancestral ghosts. Is when you keep those ancestral ghosts happy, then the flow and the energy of prosperity is coming to you, to the future generations. And this is very much linked to feng shui and what they were using it for. And so, this classical feng shui has over 3,000 years of documented practice. It's based in mathematical and scientific foundation. It's based on compass directions, time calculations, and observable landforms. And the flying star system, which is what I use in classical feng shui, to determine the specific energetic blueprint of your home and the specific remedies that you need to put into your home to shift the energy, because each home has its own unique energetic blueprint. It's a very precise analysis, and it does include time calculations, the compass directions, the year your house was birthed. It's like a birth chart for your house. And it uses the Bagua map. Ba meaning 8 and Gua meaning trigram or area or palace. And within your home, each Gua on the map represents a different area of your life. And I'll do many different episodes about that. But it's classical feng shui treats a space, your home, like acupuncture treats the body. It works with meridian lines. It works with qi. It works on releasing the stuck and stagnant energy and moving it and getting it flowing again. You know what it's like if you've got a sore back and there's this one spot on your back that just really hurts and it feels super stuck and you can't really move your neck and it makes you feel groggy and lethargic and kind of frustrated and angry because you can't do what you want to do and you're in pain. Well, your house is the same, your space is the same. Those little pockets of energy that get stuck, usually based on also emotion, because we know that pain in the body is usually caused by some kind of emotional root foundation. It's the same in classical feng shui. With classical feng shui, we don't look at just the symptoms of what's going on in your life and your space. We get to the root cause. It's like a root cause medicine. And we use the 5 elements that I mentioned before: wood, earth, water, metal, and earth. Specifically, we use it actually quite scientifically, not decoratively, although some of the remedies will be asking you to put those types of elements in certain parts of your house. And classical feng shui really requires study and precision and mastery. I can tell you that this wasn't an easy course that I took to become a classical feng shui practitioner, or I like to say feng shui fairy godmother. It was a lot of a lot of study, a lot of understanding, a lot of practice, a lot of really getting to grips with all of these different calculations and the lay of the land and the precision of it all to make sure that you receive the correct report when I do a Hearth and Home Flying Stars report for you. And with this idea that that only the emperors were receiving this knowledge and this wisdom of feng shui, they used it to build the Temple of Heaven, which is in the southeast area of Beijing. And the Bagua map, southeast represents prosperity and abundance and the flow of that into your life. And the Temple of Heaven was a host to 22 Chinese emperors, and it was originally built as this temple between heaven and earth, as I mentioned, Kan Yu. And it was built upon the original template of a classical compass feng shui because the south side of Beijing is considered to be the yang side. So it's like the active, more masculine doing side. And it was said that this was built to draw upon the divine power to protect and provide for the emperors. Now, of course, because it was the elite, the dynasty that was receiving all this wealth, what do you think happened to the common person? The common person didn't receive this wisdom, right? This is why I'm here bringing this to you now. This is why I'm here bringing it to the modern mystics, because I think everybody should know this wisdom. But feng shui was actually banned in the mid 20th century. Books were burned, practitioners were jailed. Mao Zedong banned it, but he himself studied feng shui, but he feared the average person having his power. So it was banned. And you know that I am somebody who is here for liberation and sovereignty. And if anything is banned, I'm here to bring it to the people. I have walked through the fire so many times in my life as a priestess and an oracle. I have been tortured. I have been killed in many past lives. I've been, suppressed and oppressed. And now I will not shut up. Now I will use my voice to share this wisdom because I believe that you deserve to know this ancient wisdom. Classical feng shui did actually survive because it works. It's mathematical, it's observable, and it's repeatable. And it is something that is still used today, as I said to you, even with huge businesses that understand hotels, big corporations use this. And I want to bring it to you. I want to bring it into your spaces so that you can create your home as a living temple, a sacred sanctuary. So there are three major roles in feng shui. The first one is more of like the scientific aspect, so it's more quantitative. And this is, as I explained to you, these calculations that I use in your flying star charts, which are based on time and space and compass directions and magnetic fields. I also use what's known as the flying stars formulas to work with your Bagua map, which is the specific map overlay of your floor plan of your home. As I said, it's very precise and specific to your energetic blueprint of your space. I also look at the year your house was born or birthed, like a birth chart for your home. And I use all of that to calculate your flying stars. Then I can see in which areas of your home need certain remedies. And those certain areas of your home relate to certain areas of your life. So you'll often find that when I do a report for you, I'll obviously get on a phone call with you and tune in and see what it is that you are working through in your life and what aspects of your life you are finding challenging and where you might have some stagnancy or stuckness and where you're wanting to move forward and open up space for the version of you that you are becoming. And then based on that, based on all those calculations, I can start to see in your chart specifically where we need to move the energy and what remedies we can put in place for that. Then there's the intentional aspect of feng shui. So what is the home really communicating to you energetically? Where are you not in harmony with your home environment? Where have you neglected certain parts of your home or certain parts of yourself? Where are there things that are broken and leaking? Where are there things that are burnt out? Where are there things that are blocked? Where is there clutter? And this is more of the intentional aspect of working with you as your living temple in your body, in your space, in your life, and your living temple of your home, because they are in symbiosis. And then there's the energetic aspect, which is the felt experience. Does the space feel warm and peaceful? Does it feel overwhelming? Does it feel cluttered? Does it feel cold? Does it feel dark? Does it feel dense? How and where is the space located? Is it quiet and safe? What shapes are present? And what's the temperature like? The brightness, the sensory engagement that you are connecting with every time you walk over that threshold through the portal and into your living temple. And so feng shui really looks at how to move and shift this energy. And now I am here to bring this wisdom to you as the modern mystic so that you can find that flow of chi in your life and your home to really turn it into a portal of prosperity, of power, of peace, of nourishment, so that you can call in all of those things that you want to into your life, bringing them from the unseen, the heaven, into the seen, earth. It could be to do with your career, your purpose, your mission, your creativity, love and relationships, the people that you meet, the people that you need to meet, the connections that you want to create, community, money, abundance, wealth, prosperity, health, vitality. All of this is encompassed within feng shui. So, this is just the first little part of what feng shui is. I really hope that you have learned something today. If you want to start putting in some very simple shifts into your space to make it more sacred, to make it more of a living temple, I will post my free guide, Simple Shift Sacred Spaces, into the show notes. You can click on that. It's completely free, and you will receive a guide on how to start doing some very simple things in your house. If you're looking for something more bespoke and you're listening to this thinking, oh, do you know what? My house does feel a bit off. There's something not quite right in my space. And you want to dive deeper to see what energies are stagnant right now, where you need to shift that. You have one of two options. You can come to me for an energy space clearing. This is my signature radiance reset. This is where I get on a call with you and I intuitively use my psychic abilities to tune into the energy and the spirits of your space. And we get to see what needs to be cleared and what needs to be moved. This is not feng shui. This is me coming in with my energetic space clearing, my psychic gifts to kind of remote view your space and feel the energy and start to clear it and shift it for you. So that's the radiance reset. Then there's a full feng shui report called Hearth and Home. This is a much more in-depth report specifically about the blueprint of your home using the flying stars. So I would calculate your specific chart, like the birth chart for your home, just like you would get an astrology chart or a human design chart or a gene key specifically for your space. There is nobody else that will have the same map as you because your space is unique and it has its own energetic blueprint. And this is a really beautiful offering where we get on a phone call, we start to tune into what's going on in your space and in your life. And as I said, what you want to move with and where you're facing some challenges and what you'd like to shift and alchemize and what you'd like to call in and manifest and create into your reality. I then will use your specific floor plan, your specific birth date of your house, the compass directions, and I will create a whole report with the Bagua map to see where the energy is stuck, where it's unfavorable, and what you need to do specifically to move it in your home with specific guidance, specific remedies just for you, and a full report that I will then get on a phone call with you and talk you through it to see what needs to be done next to really start to shift and open up the space. And this work is powerful. Let me tell you, I just walked somebody through their feng shui report. She sent me a voice note. I don't know. I've put in some remedies as you recommended based on the report we went through. She said she's had the most calm and nourishing 2 weeks of her life since she did that. And this is somebody who is very chaotic, who often has their ducks absolutely not in a row. In fact, their ducks are quacking all over the place and thinking that their pond is not their home, that the river is their home, and they're all over the place. So when this client came to me, she was in complete disarray. Her house is very chaotic, as is her family life, as is her business life. And for her to send me that message after putting in the remedies is a testimony and a power to this work. So I will put all the links to that into the show notes for you. It's all on my website, www.rootsandritualsinteriors.com. I also have a free Telegram group, Rooted and Radiant. Again, I'll post that in the link for you to join. I give more feng shui tips and post the podcast episodes and things like that in there. And I get to connect with you more and ask you questions and tune in with what it is that you specifically need. So come and join us over there. Until then, have a beautiful, magical day. And I'm always rooting for your radiance.